The Singapore dollar hit an all-time high against the ringgit on Monday due to adjustments made by the Monetary Authority of Singapore, coupled with a weakening ringgit, according to economists. The SGD to MYR exchange rate rose to a record high of 1 to 3.1665 in the morning and was later trading at 3.1651. Bloomberg data showed that the previous high was 3.165 on March 31st, 2017. According to Bank Islam chief economist Dr. Muhammad Afzanizam Abdul Rashid, the MAS's recent adjustments would give Singapore a head start in normalizing its monetary policy stance. He explains that the MAS has already started tightening its monetary policy by targeting the SGD nominal effective exchange rate for appreciation in its recent monetary policy meeting on April 14th. Muhammad Afzanizam said that inflation has remained stable for now, which means that Bank Negara would have the room to keep the overnight policy rate stable in the near term. He says the biggest uncertainty for the weakening MYR now is how the US Federal Reserve will unwind its monetary easing. Muhammad Afzanizam also points out that the higher commodity prices will benefit the government and give it more policy space, which is important because the economic recovery is still in the early stages. He says in that sense, the Malaysian economy should be able to recover decently this year. The MYR had weakened against the US dollar to 4.349 at the time of recording from the previous close at 4.323. Muhammad Afzanizam says that his USD MYR forecast remains at 4.15, but that may be revised when the Fed meets next week. Jeffrey Halley, a senior analyst and economist at OANDA, says the MYR seems to be becoming an indicator of China's growth weakness, as China is Malaysia's largest trading partner. Halley says in this environment, the weakness of the MYR will continue unless China cranks up stimulus measures or the Chinese yuan stops weakening. Petronas Dagangan is working closely with the Ministry of Finance on the increase of the fuel subsidy bill amid near-record high crude oil prices, according to MD and CEO Azrul Osman Rani. In a virtual press conference, Azrul said PETDAG understands the current predicament with the high global oil prices that are impacting the country and every other nation. He explains that for comparison, RON 95 in Thailand is close to 5 ringgit per litre, while Singapore is close to 10 ringgit per litre. Azrul says the group is also aware that the government is looking at various other initiatives, including potential targeted subsidies that will focus on the B40 segment and possibly expand its scope to the M40 segment as well. He says that there are still several discussion points that need to be finalized and that PETDAG will be working closely with MOF to ensure a smooth and sustainable model that the country can adopt. Meanwhile, when asked if PETDAG's commercial division, which sells aviation fuels, has benefited from the recent border reopening, Azrul says that while the division has seen a significant improvement, there are many other factors in play that could impact business. He also hinted that PETDAG had quite a good first quarter for FY22 but declined to reveal further. The government has agreed to allow toll-free rides and toll discounts of up to 50% to Malaysians in conjunction with Aidilfitri this year, according to Prime Minister Datuk Seri Ismail Sabri Yaakob. In a statement, he said highway users could enjoy the toll-free rides on April 30th and May 1st, as well as May 7th and 8th for their return trips to their hometowns. According to Bernama, the PM said this move was taken following discussions with 30 highway concessionaires. Overall, he says the toll-free rides and toll discounts would involve 30 highways across the country, with discounts to be enjoyed by users totaling 77.11 million ringgit. Ismail Sabri says the amount will be jointly borne by the government and the concessionaires. The toll-free rides will involve highways owned by Kumpulan Plus Malaysia through its North-South Expressway network and ANE with the East Coast Expressway. The toll-free rides will begin at 12:01 a.m. on April 30th until 11:59 p.m. on May 1st and from 12:01 a.m. on May 7th until 11:59 p.m. on May 8th for all classes of vehicles. Apart from that, toll discounts of between 30 and 50% will also be given for all classes of vehicles on other highways during the same time and days. The PM said the decision was made after taking into account the impact the pandemic had on livelihoods and also to help alleviate the financial burden of highway users, especially those in the low-income group. He adds that these toll-free rides and discounts offered would help enliven the Aidilfitri celebrations this year. Texchem Resources net profit for the first quarter of FY22 almost doubled to 13.1 million from 6.63 million in the same period last year, mainly on stronger contribution from its F&B business. Revenue rose 15% to 307.5 million as its restaurants ops saw a 23% jump in top line following the resumption of economic activities and as social activities gained traction, which boosted sales, according to its boss filing. In a statement, Texchem Executive Chairman Tan Sri Fumihiko Konishi said the group is reaping the benefits of the transformation strategies it implemented that focused on cost optimization as well as expansion into higher margin and value-added business streams. Looking ahead, he said Texchem's focus remains on the execution of its growth strategies across all its core business divisions. For its industrial division, Texchem's plans is to transform into a specialty chemicals distribution player, while for its polymer engineering division, it will ride on the growth and recovery of key industries which it serves. As for its restaurant division, he says it will continue to build on the strong foundation of Sushi King, and for its food division, the plan is to grow new markets and high-value products. A Fraser New Holdings subsidiary has proposed to acquire the entire equity stake in Ladang Permai Damai for a cash consideration of 215.56 million ringgit. According to the group, Ladang Permai Damai is principally engaged in the cultivation of oil palm, processing of fresh fruit bunches and marketing of crude palm oil, palm kernel and fresh fruit bunches. FNN says that the business intention for the acquisition is for the group to embark on the upstream fresh milk business for downstream production and distribution of fresh milk. This, the company says, will enable it to be less dependent on imported milk and to promote the local agricultural industry. FNN's indirect 65% owned subsidiary, Dagang Sejahtera, entered into a conditional share sale agreement with DuPont and Leosk Enterprises and Malaysia Nominees Tempatan as registered owner of the shares and nominee company of OCBC Bank Malaysia on April 25th. It should also be noted that 35% of the issued share capital of DSB is owned by Dagang Permai, a company which is wholly owned by Raja Perlis, Tuanku Syed Syirajuddin Ibni Almarhum Tuanku Syed Putra Jamalul Lail, brother of FNN's chairman and non-independent non-executive director Tunku Syed Badaruddin Jamalul Lail Ibni Almarhum Tuanku Syed Putra Jamalul Lail. This proposed acquisition is deemed a related party transaction by virtue of Tunku Syed Badaruddin Jamalul Lail's deemed interest of 0.56% in FNN. FNN also clarified that there is no relationship between the vendor of Ladang Permai Damai and FNN, its directors, major shareholders and their connected persons. The company says that the proposed acquisition will be funded by internal fundings and or borrowings and is expected to be completed by the third quarter of 2022.